Have you been enjoying our Impact Podcast and our great guests? Then please give us a thumbs up and leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com. This episode of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Closed Loop Partners. Closed Loop Partners is a leading circular economy investor in the United States with an extensive network of Fortune 500 corporate investors, family offices, institutional investors, industry experts, and impact partners. Closed Loop's platform spans the arc of capital from venture capital to private equity, bridging gaps and fostering synergies to scale the circular economy. To find Closed Loop Partners, please go to www.closedlooppartners.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. I'm John Shigarian. I'm so honored to have with us today Justin Kamine. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Do Good Foods and Do Good Chicken. Welcome to the Impact Podcast, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, John.
Hey, I know you're an original New Jersey boy. You're talking to me from New York City, also where I grew up, where I went to high school and college, and I'm sitting in Fresno today. So it's wonderful having an East Coast denizen with us today. But before we get going, Justin, about all the good work you're doing at Do Good Chicken, can you share a little bit about where you grew up in New Jersey and how this journey unfolded and how you got into this whole sustainable chicken business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I as you mentioned, grew up in New Jersey on a horse farm and kind of was there for 25, 30 years of my life. And really kind of fell in love with nature, the environment, and kind of really seeing kind of the circular economy up close, right? Of how the manure went into the soil, how the soil created more crops, all that type of stuff.
Right.
And the background of the family is important because that's kind of really how we got to where we are with Do Good Foods. So my dad started off essentially as a plumber, installing wastewater heat recovery systems in boiler rooms at age 12 to 15 with his father, just trying to kind of make ends meet. When he got married to my wife, my mother, around 25, they mortgaged their house 4 times and got GE to finance about $800 million behind them, where they built about 600 megawatts worth of natural gas cogeneration facilities. Wow. And they're providing the cheap steam, the byproduct of cogen, to the very same paper mills and greenhouses that he and my grandfather installed the boilers at. Wow. So at a very early age, the ethos and the DNA of the family is we've been walking through the back door of the production facility as well as the front door. We really hanging out with the boiler room team, and that's really who ended up making the career and making the decision as to who got those contracts for the cogen business. Long story short, that was sold in 94. 95, President Clinton deregulated the telecom industry, similar to the deregulation of the energy market. And GE, along with some others, came to us as a family and said, we want you to be the family to build, own, and operate a telecom infrastructure platform for them. And so no different than agriculture. We knew nothing about telecom at that time. Long story short, we deployed $2.5 billion across 40 cities. And we ended up becoming one of the largest privately held telecom companies across the United States, carrying about 1/3 of the nation's dial-up. We had to listen to that dance to log on to the internet.
Right.
So long story short, we sold that. And then about 12, 14 years ago, my brother and I graduated college. And my father and mother at that time were right around 50 years old. And brother and I came up with the thesis of how do we use large-scale infrastructure to solve some of society's biggest problems as quick as possible, recognizing that we are all screwed if this continues to happen with climate change, resource depletion, population increasing, and there's a tremendous inefficiency in the middle, aka waste. And at that time, in kind of the 2008, 2009 timeframe, solar energy was just getting started. And so I sat outside our office, kind of just cold calling landowners, building owners. My brother started off kind of at the lowest totem pole of engineering. His background was engineering, mine was more business and public policy. And we both kind of built our careers learning how to figure that out. How do we really build large scale infrastructure? And we built about 125 megawatts, about $400 million of solar projects for companies like Pfizer and Eli Lilly and Amazon. And we made Six Flags the first amusement park in the world to be 100% powered by solar. So that was really our training ground as to how do we actually become an entrepreneur and help scale a business. And then we kind of came across the stat of food waste about 5-6 years ago and said, that's the problem we got to really tackle.
That's so wonderful. Now, so it's a family business. It's your younger brother?
No, my older brother. And my father is still full-time, 24/7, 365.
Oh, wow. So it's a family business. It's a family business. So when did you all decide to launch Do Good Foods and Do Good Chicken?
Yeah. So it's been a couple year journey, and with a lot of kind of our engineers and operating team as well. And we got funding from TIAA-CREF Nuveen April of 2019. So $170 million came into the company from them. And we built the first of its kind, never before been done, manufacturing facility in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania. That facility is operating where we are upcycling about 160 tons that we collect from about 450 supermarkets of surplus grocery food every day and to a dried chicken feed the very next day.
So let's step back and frame up the problem. What does the problem of food waste really look like in America, and how bad is it? How much are we wasting, and how much are we unnecessarily filling our landfills and other areas wrongfully with this overrun of food waste?
Yeah, so food waste is a massive, massive problem. And quite frankly, based upon Project Drawdown, the number one initiative and the number one most solvable problem across society from an environmental and a food perspective. We absolutely need to solve it. This isn't a we hope, we dream, we would like to. This is something that we absolutely need to. And so the numbers are staggering. 40% of all the food that is grown is thrown away across the United States. Think about that. You're walking out of a supermarket and 2 out of every 5 bags of groceries, you're just throwing in the garbage for every bag. We use 20% of our land to grow crops that we simply throw away. All of that food typically goes to landfill where it creates methane gas, about 86 times more potent than CO2. If food waste was a country, it would be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas in the world. The US, China, and then food waste. And when you really relate food waste to the understanding of the time, energy, and resources that went into actually creating that food, I mean, you're talking about meats, fruits, and vegetables that farmers spent a lot of energy and resources to actually create. And 40% of that just typically just goes to landfill and then contributes to the greenhouse gas problem. This whole circular system is pretty inefficient. So food waste is something that we absolutely have to address. There's so much of it across the supply chain, from on the farm to the food distributors to the retailers to the household level, that there's a tremendous amount of solutions that are kind of coming to bear and kind of getting to scale. So that's the optimistic kind of viewpoint of it. And the terminology of upcycling, the recognition that people can and we can and should be utilizing our resources in a more efficient manner, that the whole terminology of waste shouldn't really exist with food. We just really need to maximize and optimize how we utilize that asset and that resource, whether it be to human consumption, donated as much as possible based upon the EPA food hierarchy. After any human consumption can occur, the next best usage is to be converted into an animal feed. And so there's a tremendous amount of opportunity and solutions to really create a circular economy and a circular food system. And what I like to say is kind of revert nature back to the way it intended to operate. When we all used to grow up on a farm, We used to take our leftovers and feed it to our chickens and pigs and pets out back. That was a circular economy. That was a waste-free system. We just now have to implement that same concept and that same thesis just at a macro scale, recognizing that we all go to major retailers and we all don't grow up on farms anymore.
All right. So wait a second. So you and your brother and your family wanted to attack this issue of food waste. There's so many ways of attacking issues appropriately. And when you envisioned it, explain then how you came up with the upcycling methodology and in terms of attacking it from that angle. And I mean, you went big fast. I mean, to raise $170 million to put together this facility in Pennsylvania, that's a big swing at the ball. Explain how why that was the right angle from your perspective to go at this issue.
We don't have time to waste. And given the background of the family, we had that kind of platform to go off and do and try to do that type of kind of arrangement. Recognizing that we absolutely need to be working with the largest food companies across the United States to actually solve this problem in the next 5 or 7 years. We can't be sitting here in 20 years or when I have kids my age and saying, hey, we still waste 40% of all the food that is grown. That's a tragedy and it's a shame. And quite frankly, we're all screwed if that continues to happen. And so the only way to realistically shift society and shift the systems is to be economically viable and at scale with the largest retailers, the largest food service companies, the largest farmers, and to really bring sustainability to scale and to the masses at a price point well below organic and empower the consumer to now be a part of the solution and simply buy a delicious piece of chicken and now know that you're doing good with the main factors of don't tell me to change my habits and don't make me pay a lot more. Well, great.
So fascinating. So you leverage your and the knowledge base and the confidence of your family's history of doing things at scale. Your mom and dad have done things at scale numerous times over, and that was you and your brother's theory that your family had great success doing things at scale, and as you said, we're out of time here. I mean, and that is, whether people want to hear that or not, we are so out of time. So you put together this facility, you raise that kind of dough, and you're upcycling. For our listeners and viewers who are out there who aren't familiar with that technology, again, let's go over what the upcycling part of the circular economy looks like before we get into the chicken part of it, and the sustainable chicken part of it.
Yeah, so upcycling is about utilizing a resource after its kind of first and best usage to kind of be preserved and value the nutrients available. So as mentioned, based on the EPA food hierarchy, the first and best usage of food is the always fed to humans. And in all of our contracts with retailers, we identify in pretty much bold that the next best usage after selling that product is to donate as much as you possibly can to any local food bank. Up to the extent that it still exists, the next best usage is to take that surplus grocery food, depackage it, and put any of the produce or meats into our specific bins that are at the supermarket level that are actually kept in the cold chain. So in the meat locker and the produce section. Those bins essentially act like a big Yeti cooler. So think about when you bring your drinks to your beach, they're able to kind of maintain that temperature.
Right.
We have that same premise, but just at the supermarket level. So they close those bins. Our drivers go and pick up those bins every 2 or 3 days. And the surplus grocery food that I bring back to my production facility, you can see on our website or my Instagram or LinkedIn, you can see the surplus grocery food is still cold to touch. It still looks like you can still have a salad and make it and have a barbecue out of what we're picking up. It's just the reality of the food system. And so we then put it through our process where we're able to grind all that food up. We're heating it up. We're pasteurizing it. We're blending it so that we get to that nutritional consistency. And then we're drying that feed or that product into what looks and feels like a dried feed ingredient. And what's so powerful about that is that that can now go into the existing feed mill infrastructure of our farmers the very next day, no different than corn and soy.
That's fascinating. And so, and for our listeners and viewers who just joined us, we've got Justin Kamine with us today. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Do Good Foods. You can find Justin and his family and colleagues at dogoodchicken.com. Dogoodchicken.com. Justin, why chicken? Why did you start in terms of the food, ecosystem? Why did you start, besides the upcycling, which I totally get and understand, and the value of scale and what you've created in Pennsylvania? Why chicken?
Well, chickens are omnivores, first and foremost, right? So we're actually giving them their rightful and more natural diet that they would be getting in nature, right? They're going out. If you leave a chicken out in the wild, it's going out and eating everything.
Okay.
Unfortunately, big agriculture has only kind of force-fed them corn and soy and called it, quote unquote, this vegetarian diet, which is just a lot of marketing terminology. So where we went was, okay, where's the optimum from a health perspective and a nutritional composition for the right animal? Chicken was it to start. And then we overlaid that with the fact that there are over 8 to 9 billion chicken consumed in the United States per year.
Wow.
175 million chicken are processed every week. So when we look at the magnitude of the system that we've built, right, our infrastructure that helps solve surplus grocery food or food waste across the country, we wanted to approach an industry that we could sit here today and say we could actually solve food waste across the country. If 1 out of every 5 pieces of chicken that we all ate was a Do Good chicken, we would solve this problem in the next 5 years. That's a pretty cool initiative and a pretty amazing stat. And it's real and it's tangible and it's already here. We don't need some technology breakthrough or some carbon capturing solution. It's just logical, and the way nature intended to operate in a closed loop system has never before been done at this scale. And so chicken was really our kind of our focus to say, we got to build a brand. We got to put this product back onto the retail shelf. The supermarkets love it because we pick up all their surplus grocery food for free. We hand them back a standard retail product. They make their standard retail margin on it. And so therefore, this closed loop system is amazingly profitable for them. And so it's not just sustainability. It's really, how do you make a profitable business? And the only way to have the greatest impact in the world is to have the greatest profitability. And then therefore, you can actually have impact at scale.
So that's fascinating. Your relationship with the retailers is truly bilateral. It's selling in, but also taking back. And so that you're just closing the whole circular economy with the retailers then.
Yep.
That's awesome. And when did you launch the chickens, the sustainable chickens themselves?
Yeah, so Do Good Chicken launched less than a year ago. Literally next week, April 22nd of Earth Day, is when we launched last year.
And how's it going? How, from what you did at the kitchen table with your brother and dad and mom, and to where it's been, how's the scaling been? The launch and the scale.
It's been an amazing journey. We did not come from the poultry industry. I do not claim that I'm an expert in it. I think I'm getting my MBA in it. Yeah. But since launch, we've seen amazing success. So we are already with Target, Albertsons, Acme, Safeway, Giant, Ahold, Wakefern, many others. We have major food service contracts and relationships with groups like Food Buy and Compass, and many others that have kind of come to us and said, not only is the chicken tasting delicious, where you can find it at places like Tom Colicchio's restaurant, but what is so impactful and powerful about this product is that it has the first ever USDA approved, third-party verified Scope 3 carbon reduced equation, where each Do Good chicken saves 3 pounds of greenhouse gases. And so that quantification to lower Scope 3 emissions by simply buying this piece of chicken, we're selling into many of the Fortune 100 companies, and they're now starting to put this on their major ESG reports because they're actually lowering carbon emissions by simply buying a delicious piece of chicken through their current supply chain.
But if they're doing it really right, aren't they also sending you back their food surplus also? So they're winning twice on their ESG report if they're really doing it right.
The retailers that are doing that and are absolutely leading. And they're leading with profitability too, because we take a huge cost and make it zero.
So let's go over this now. Let's go back to the chicken issue. You choosing chicken as your first opportunity. You gave the stats on chickens in the United States. Is chicken the number one meat in the world right now that's consumed?
I don't know that for sure, but it's definitely trending, if not already there.
Right. Someone once told me recently, and I'm not sure if I had it right. It was that their statistics show that due to some of the big pig diseases that had hit Asia and China in the recent years, that chicken had overcome pork from. So it's if that's the case, wow, you've created a paradigm that not only will work here and continue to scale here. I assume with the scale that your family's worked on before, you've created a paradigm that could be taken around the world eventually as well.
Absolutely. We've been having conversations with many major countries across the world about kind of bringing this solution to bear. Not only just with chicken, but as with Michael's Foods, we've already launched Do Good Eggs, and we can utilize this feed across the board in different animal-based proteins, recognizing that we got to use our current food system to solve some of our biggest environmental problems now. Yes, we can all eat better. Yes, we can continue to scale plant-based proteins and more environmentally progressive alternatives. I am all for all of them. I also look at the magnitude of the current system, and the majority of consumers, 90+% of them, are still eating animal-based proteins at such massive volumes that we need to focus onto that. And that's why I always use a stat. If 1 out of every 5 chickens would do good chickens, we'd solve food waste. We can continue to reduce animal-based proteins, which would be great for the environmental perspective too. Right. But those that want to eat chicken or eggs, we absolutely have to give them an alternative that is equally, if not way more progressive from the environmental perspective.
Well, and like you said, you're meeting your consumers where they're at. They want to eat it. You're giving them what they want and just giving them a more sustainable product, which is healthier for them, better for the environment. Everybody wins.
Absolutely.
Are you going to eventually go into eggs as well?
Yeah, we've already made that public announcement with Michael Foods, who's owned by Post Foods. I'm bringing Do Good Eggs nationwide through food service.
This is awesome. So let's go back. So you're a year into the chicken, this Earth Day. By the time this episode airs, it will be a little bit after Earth Day, I'm sure. So, where are you? If life is a baseball game and business is a baseball game, are you in the top of the first, the bottom of the third? Where are you right now, Justin, in terms of your scaling of the chicken part of this amazing venture and circular economy opportunity that you've created for Do Good Foods and Do Good Chicken?
Yeah. So it's an interesting question. I think from the contracts and relationships that we have with literally the largest food service companies and the largest retailers already, I would say we are in inning 4 or 5. But I would actually say that the development of the brand and the kind of opportunity that's just getting started is probably still in the top of the first.
Right. Talk about your brother. I assume you're both you're co-CEOs with your brother.
Yeah, it's been amazing. He's got an amazing engineering and finance minds, and he really runs all the operations and construction and logistics. If you think about it, we've kind of built 4 businesses all within one, right? Everyone's always recognized that food waste is a major problem. No one's ever really done anything at scale about it because you've had to set up an entire logistics business, an entire processing business that's never before been done in a large scale manufacturing perspective. And then once you create that feed, then you got to then launch a sales and marketing and distribution product and business as well. And you got to coordinate all of that collectively together with a group and a team that's never before done it. So he very much runs a lot of pretty much the pickup of the surplus grocery food to the processing to the feed creation. The moment that feed is created, I pretty much pick it up and say, okay, here's where we're going, how we're doing it, and here's the sales and the marketing strategy.
Is that what you studied in college, sales and marketing?
No, not really. I kind of more business-ish.
Okay.
But, we've been entrepreneurs now for about 12 years, so you get a pretty quick learn of a lot of different things.
Well, wait a second. Not really. You've been entrepreneurs since you came out of your mom and dad, and you guys really grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So no matter what, whether it was dinner table and it was by osmosis, you guys really were inundated with the world of entrepreneurism with what your mom and dad were doing since you've been born. That's the way I look at this whole thing.
Absolutely. I would agree. I think they would agree as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way. I mean, just are mom and dad involved with this, or are they cheering you on from the sidelines, or are they sitting you down once a week or once a month or once a quarter saying, let's review what's going on so we can coach you from what we've seen before with the pattern recognition that we've seen in our lives and our careers, just so you guys keep on the line that you're supposed to keep on? How does that work?
Our father is 24/7, 365 at the office. So
he's hardcore. Your dad's hardcore.
If you called him up right now and asked him any line item in the Excel model or any business development that's ongoing and what's the next conversation, he'll tell you everything that's going on.
I love your dad. I love your dad. He's my kind of guy. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Talk about you and your brother, the first sale. You, your brother, your dad, the family, first sale. What was the first indication that clicked? This was going to work, and here was the first buyer, and who was that first uptake on what you were proposing?
So on day one, right, we had never sold a piece of chicken.
On day one?
Yeah, I mean, we had been building this kind of in this present for a while, right? And when we built the infrastructure, right, it took us 1.5 years to build that, right?
Yeah.
So we had to write supply contracts for the supermarkets. But on day one, we had already pre-sold into Albertsons, Acme, Safeway, Giant, A-Holds, and Cisco. So the first clients were some of the biggest. And they were saying, you know what, this story, this impact, and this profitable solution is something that we want to get behind and be a part of. And so, I mean, funny story. I mean, my head of sales and I literally Tuesday night, we had never before kind of tasted the product. We processed it. It was going onto retail shelves the next day. And we literally took a flight out to Chicago, go and met with a bunch of the chefs. And all the kind of top chefs across the country that all are part of the story and wanted to kind of be a part of like the first product. And they're cooking it up for us. And they're like, oh, how do you guys like taste it and all this type of stuff? Like, tell me about your past experiences with the product. And we just kind of look at each other like, no, this is it. So their first bite was our first bite. And it's amazing the taste profile and the deliciousness of the chicken. You really are what you eat. Right now, a majority, if not nearly every one of the chickens that we've all had as a society, unless it's like a pasture-raised bird, which is a very small fraction of the massive chicken market, is just fed corn and soy. Now all of a sudden, these chickens are really getting the meats, fruits, and vegetables, amino acids that are really what those animals really and truly desire and are right from the environmental perspective. And it's showing up in a delicious product.
Thank you for sending the samples in advance of the show. Our family, the lady who takes care of our household, cooked it up for my wife and my daughter. I'm typically a plant-based eater, but my granddaughter, my wife and daughter are very concerned about what our family eats, given the times we live in, and also our granddaughter now is 3. Everybody tried your chicken, including myself. I'll tell you what, it was superior to anything else I've ever tasted. And again, I'm not a big meat eater, but it was delicious. My granddaughter, 3-year-olds don't lie. She loved it. My daughter loved it. And I know my daughter is going to be a convert and buy for her family now, young family, your Do Good chicken. But it's just so great to know that someone like you, with the efficacy that you care about so deeply, and your brother cares about, and your family cares about, are doing something as important as you're doing it on a scale level, not just for the Northeast region or the Southeast region, or, you did it right out of the chute on a big time basis. And that's That's just fascinating and also incredible at the same time. Who did you hook up with though to get Albertsons and all these great brands already pre-sold in? Did you hire a food brokerage company? Did you and your pops and your brother know enough to do that, or did someone coach you to do that, or did you guys just go direct? How did that really transpire? Because I have a lot of young entrepreneurs that listen to this show that have new drinks and have all sorts of new food products, because this is the innovation generation of the revamping of our food ecosystem. And they're always wondering, should they go direct? Do they need a broker? How did you actually do it at scale?
Yeah, we've hired a tremendous amount of amazing people that have joined the mission, that have come from the industry.
Got it.
And I mean, we're up to 100 plus people in the company. And
wow.
What's been amazing and so powerful is we've pulled people out of retirement. We've done, everything, because they're now able to do what they grew up doing and knowing that they love, and that's been their bread and butter on their life for the entire decades that they've been working. But now they actually get to do that and do something good that's really impactful and tangible for the environment. And to your point, you brought up your daughter and her kids.
Yeah.
This is about empowering us all to be a part of this mission. It's not going to be just Do Good Foods that solves food waste. It's going to be collectively all of us. And if you, as a consumer or a mom, are walking into a store and you can simply move your arm 6 inches to the right and buy this brand or not that brand, and now know that you're actually saving 3 pounds of greenhouse gases and 4 pounds of surplus grocery food, why wouldn't you now do good? But we need to recognize that we're all part of this whole planet together. And I think that's been the problem with the food system, is we've been so disconnected from our food. We walk into every supermarket at every time and expect every product, right? There's no seasonality anymore. So you brought up the kind of this food revolution. Mm-hmm. I think it's now because people are truly recognizing the problems of the current food system, the resource depletion as population goes up. That's just a math equation. There's a current imbalance that it just runs out. So how do we rebalance that? And it's about, in my opinion, using consumerism to solve our environmental problems.
For our listeners and viewers who just joined us, we've got Justin Kamine with us. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Do Good Chicken. You can find him at www.dogoodchicken.com. So right now you have retailers and supermarkets taking your product. What percentage, like how much more sell-through do you need to feel like, wow, we are on all cylinders now in terms of 2 things: getting back their food waste and selling in your chicken? You know, when do you hit the scale level that you'll like say we're accomplishing what we set out to do?
As a good entrepreneur, I'm not sure that there is an answer there.
Yeah.
And I'd say it because there is supermarkets across the country. There's like 42,000 of them, or plus or minus. And each one, more or less, is pretty much throwing away a tremendous amount of surplus grocery food. So the inherent environmentalist in me continues to kind of think about, okay, well, there's always going to be some waste, and let's keep going after that and pursuing that. To answer your question kind of more logically, which is probably what my therapist would say, I think there's a recognition of this is only year one. The companies that we already have a part of us, the excitement around the brand that we already know is here and real. I think when we land our first major QSR restaurant, quick serve restaurant, where you can walk in and you can get the chicken sandwich that saved the world or the egg sandwich that saved the world. I mean, someone's going to win the chicken sandwich wars by launching the most sustainable chicken sandwich ever. True. I'm winning on taste and I'm winning on the environment. And that PR blitz is going to be monumental when they can point at everyone else and say, I'm doing it not just from a taste profile, but I'm also helping to save the world. That's a powerful mission and powerful story. I think at that moment, it'll be like, okay, that's cool.
You know, Justin, I'm on your website now, just dogoodchicken.com, and I love it because it shows all the great products you have: chicken thighs, drumsticks, chicken tenderloins, breasts. drumettes and whole chickens and eventually eggs coming your way. But then it talks about the retailers, Giant, Safeway, Target, Acme, Jewel Osco. When do you also cross over into the Irwans and Whole Foods and those marketplaces? I'm always fascinated by that crossover and uptake as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people always kind of ask me, well, why didn't you just kind of focus on the Whole Foods? Isn't that the most sustainable customer, right? And in Whole Foods trends, it was, I think in 2022, all about upcycling, right?
Sure.
And so the answer is, yeah, that's probably my ideal customer, right? That's, if I had to draw it up, that's probably the main type of person. Sustainability in the environment doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We need to bring affordability and accessibility to climate change solutions now.
You're right.
They can't be for the 1%, no different than how organic is kind of for the top 5% of consumers, right? We need to drive monumental and massive change immediately. And the only way to do so is across the board to make this accessible to as many people as possible. Because the fact is that 90+% of consumers are raising their hands saying, what can I do to help? Just don't ask me to change my habits and don't ask me to pay a lot more. So if we can provide products to the masses, that 90+% of people, then all of a sudden, everyone's their own little superhero. And that's where my whole belief is that we're in this problem because of consumerism. We got to get out of this problem with consumerism. And we got to be accessible to everyone and not this kind of, I don't know, top price product where not everyone can afford it.
That's true. You know, you recently announced partnerships with the Compass Group and Michael Foods. You referenced Michael's a little while ago. You know, what's next for Do Good? What's on your, you know, when you go to bed tonight, tomorrow night, the next night, what's next in terms of, you know, you always like to think big and far in advance, but also we got to kind of have a path to get there. What's your path the rest of 23 and 24? What's it look like for Do Good?
Yeah, I mean, we're raising a big round right now, so that will hopefully come to fruition relatively shortly.
Stop there. I always like hearing about that. Entrepreneurs always raise money. It's never easy. What's a big round to the Kamine family? That's what I want to understand. How much are you raising now?
A sizable amount.
Okay, sizable amount. You raised 170 million before. That's a sizable amount. So you're raising sizable amount to meet the scale that you're hitting.
Yes.
Okay.
Equally sizable. Yep. And so that will be exciting, I think. And that will really put us on the trajectory to really just bring this to a bigger and broader audience as quick as possible. I mean, we've already diverted just since we launched 6, 8, 10 months ago, 27 million pounds of surplus grocery food. I mean, we've already saved over 3,100 tons of CO2. And that's the first year. That's the first. Just so if we're looking at an impact, is that like the first April? You know, first Earth Day to the next Earth Day? Yeah, I mean, less than a year, and that's not even fully ramped up. So that's just kind of the facility just turning on and just kind of ramping up. This year will be the full kind of going into the next quarter, full year of kind of at max scale as we kind of keep driving up.
And are the retailers that are, you know, leveraging your take back program and also selling your great product, are they actualizing it and doing what we talked about earlier? Are they radically transparently discussing in their ESG report and impact report, which of course is seen by their analysts, C-suite and client base, investors and others, what they're actually doing with you?
Yeah, they're getting there. I mean, I actually give them a carbon impact receipt each month based upon how many pounds of surplus grocery food, because we measure and weigh every bin. So we know down to the store how much we're collecting. And then we also know how many pounds of chicken that they're consuming or buying. And so we can calculate the amount of pounds of greenhouse gases that we're saving based upon those chicken purchases. So they're starting to. Compass listed us in their major ESG report, which was fantastic. And then Michael's also did it well. So people are now really starting to kind of put it out publicly, this partnership that we have with them.
And you have a zip code locator on your dogoodchicken.com website where people could click to where to buy, put in their postal code or their city, and it will bring up where close to them they can buy your great products.
Yeah, no, They were pretty much from Boston to DC, out to Texas and up to Colorado, then kind of over to Chicago. So we're making our way west, but kind of priority is obviously where our production facility is in Pennsylvania.
Will you be building with the next round of capital? Is your goal to build another facility closer on the west coast, so this way you break up the country and you can service every zip code in the country?
We're working on it. So we've already publicly announced a facility in Indiana and North Carolina.
That's wonderful. I've got facilities in both states, and I got to tell you, both states are wonderful to work in. I've had nothing but great success. Our biggest facility is actually in Plainfield, Indiana, and we love working in Indiana. We've got a great facility in Baden, North Carolina, and the people of North Carolina are also wonderful to work with. Well, Justin, I don't know, you're too young to remember, but when I was growing up, I'm 60 now. When I was growing up, there was this guy named Frank Perdue, and he used to have the most iconic commercial on television, or one of the most iconic commercials. And basically the tagline for Perdue Chicken back then was, "It takes a tough man to make a tender chicken." So now I think we've got to repurpose that for you now and your family. I think we've got to repurpose it to say, "It takes a great family to make a good chicken."
Yeah.
I think that's what we've got. I think that's where we're going here, Justin.
I like it. That's a great tagline. I'll owe you some royalties.
No royalties, just a coffee one day when we get together and we meet one day. That's all I want to do. But for our listeners and viewers, again, to find Justin, his family, all his colleagues that are changing the world and making huge impacts at Do Good Chicken, please go to www.dogoodchicken.com. Justin, it's been my absolute pleasure to host you. I want you to come back on and keep giving updates on all the great announcements and changing, evolving things that you're doing to make great impacts at Do Good Chicken. Please come back on in the future and keep the journey going well. Continue good health and success. And I want you guys to succeed in the best way.
Awesome. I appreciate that very much. We're all part of this.
This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking platform revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With thousands of athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent, for speeches, custom experiences, live streams, and much more. For more information on Engage or to book talent today, visit letsengage.com. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com.